Hello, my name's Auggie Rodriguez. Not only am I a filmmaker and content creator, but at the time of this recording, I am the president of the board of directors for the not-for-profit Bisexual Queer Alliance Chicago that Ed Negron had helped co-founded in October of 2010 with Mikey Oboza. Sadly, we lost Ed July 23rd, 2021. I didn't get a chance to meet him, but in those first couple hours of us just hanging out and having another Zoom call to add more elements to the documentary, I felt like I was his best friend. And he's had quite a lot of best friends here in Chicago, being from Chicago and born and raised. Even though we mourn his loss, and for some of us still are mourning his loss, we're here to celebrate his life today. Who he was, not just the co-founder of BQAC, but even bigger, volunteer photographer both in the rubber and leather industry here in the city, being a substance abuse counselor. I could go on and on and on about his accolades as a wonderful human. But yeah, this documentary is going to be about celebrating his life. You're going to see interviews from Ed himself, a few of his family members and friends, and I'm just sharing lovely memories of who this guy is and what he did to impact their lives. So stay tuned, enjoy this. So let's get to know Ed Negron better. He was born to Ida Rodriguez on November 29th, 1970 in Chicago, Illinois. Ed is Puerto Rican and has been part of the Latino community at large here in Chicago and made an impact by holding the first Latino Pride event in the early 2000s. Ed was a former gang member and realized that he needed to change his lifestyle and get out of that lifestyle. So in his earlier years, he ended up joining the Army, enlisting, and by the time he got discharged, had the rank of sergeant. Being a former drug addict himself and realizing how hard it was to find recovery, he would utilize his skills and become a substance abuse and mental health counselor for many folks in the bisexual and queer community, and would point them out to different resources to help them with their own stages of recovery on their journey to recovery. Ed was an awesome photographer. That was his passion, and being bisexual, Latino, queer, and even kinky, he got involved in many, many different events. He would shoot different events from Pride Fest to different protests to even things within the leather and rubber kink community, such as International Mr. Leather and International Mr. Rubber. Ed would go on to be inducted in 2006 in the Chicago LGBT Hall of Fame. This would happen 4 years before him and Mikey Oboza would co-found in 2010 Bisexual Queer Alliance Chicago, also known as BQAC. Prior to his death, Ed worked and resided in Rogers Park. He worked for Leather 6410, which has been around the Chicago area for well over 25 years.
First, I want to say congratulations to BQAC for making it 10 years. That's awesome. You know, it warms my heart to see that after all these years, the club is still around. Yeah, I started the way it happened. I don't know if you want to know that now, but so like the way it happened was it started in 2009 when I was the bisexual liaison to some LGBT health summit that was being held here in Chicago, and then I was looking for volunteers to help with summit, and that's when I met Michael, and him and hit it off real well. Well, we were bad together. We would be laughing whole fucking time. Like every time you looked at us, we were laughing. We were just cracking jokes, and we were always in tears laughing. So then we started talking, and that I found out about the bisexual meet with No started. So I reached out to them, to that group, to if people wanted to volunteer, and that's how I also met No. Then after, so the summit was a huge success. It was my first time actually. In 2009 was when I reclaimed my bisexuality, because I had came out in when I was in high school back in the 80s, and but only to my closest friend. He was kind of like our god brother, and because he was gay, so I came out to him, and he was like, "Oh, the whole biphobia thing. Oh, you'll never be happy. You got to choose one or the other, and blah blah blah, yada yada
Right.
yada."
Well, so I started the bike program. And I thought, oh, we got to take this to the streets. Because every LGBT organization, there was no B consistently. So I had to start activism. I had to do something. I can't be the only bisexual flag at every event. I thought, let's start something. So I asked a Asian bisexual woman. She was too busy. And I had to find other tokens and quotas, not just me, because there's other bisexuals than just privilege. And I asked Ed. When Ed said yes, it was incredible. To have these tokens come together, we had our first BQAC meeting. And it was amazing. The room was full of all different people. It was diversity, it was inclusion, it was different languages, it was disabilities, it was abilities, it was poor, it was rich, it was incredible. And people decided, what's the name of it? First somebody suggested bisexual and queer. I'm like, oh no, some of us survived Smear the Queer. And they said, well, we're taking it back. I'm like, oh, just like I took the word bisexual back. And said, yeah, that's a good thing, let's include queer. And Bisexual Queer Alliance Chicago began October 16, 2010, with the room full of diversity. And it was the greatest love of my life, and the first love of my life.
My name's Greg Harris. I've been a friend of Ed Negron for way longer than I want to remember, and yeah, Ed was one of the guys who helped me get sober early on, and pretty much every good thing that's happened in my life I owe to Ed, and for him sticking by me during the really tough times and the good times too. And he was such an inspiration for so many people in so many communities, in the LGBTQ community, in the Puerto Rican community, in the veterans community. He touched so many lives, and it's just wonderful today to have a chance to recognize him and honor him for the man he was.
Hi, I'm Cody. At first, I actually was from Ohio, and I would come to Chicago all the time, and a lot of the times I would come to Jackhammer, or I'd come over to the store at Leather 6410, and I would see Ed all of the time. He would always be right there for an open hug, ready to go. and a lot of the times we would talk about like electro play together, and he would tell me how much he wanted to shock me. And I mean, we had some really good times. One of the best things was the biggest hugs that I would get from him. And like then once I started becoming a really good friend with him, it was like a ritual thing that I would always come to Leather 6410 just so I could find Ed, get a big hug from him, talk to him for a little bit, chit chat like we've just been talking for years. But yeah.
So a couple memories I have of Ed were back when I was first diagnosed with HIV and things were really tough. Ed was manager of Cheetah Gym at that point. And yeah, I just remember him saying to me, like, you gotta get off your ass, you gotta go do something. He signed me up to go to the gym and work out. He said, you gotta keep your body healthy if you want to stay healthy. I'm still going today. That's not a good one. I mean, that's one of the things I remember. So I think it's helped save my life.
Well, that's a good memory to have,
Yeah.
because I mean, you're just showing
And that's
how great of an individual he was, especially when
it just
it came to helping other folks getting sober, and you being, one of those people. So yeah, that's a good memory to share, especially if it's very significant and impactful.
Well, because I mean, this is one of these things that was a really small thing, but all these years later, I wonder if it didn't help save my life. Giving me that positive thing to do that kept me healthy, and I survived through the HIV epidemic. A lot of my friends did not, and maybe that's one reason why. And I always think about Ed and think, maybe he gave me that gift.
Well, that's awesome to hear. Thanks for sharing.
Vice President Hugo.
Hi,
and
everyone.
Our secretary Mikey in the back, who's also our co-founder. And yeah, we're here getting ready for our beloved co-founder Ed Negron's street naming. So let's go and check this out.
I literally just tried to like save the moment.
I am the younger sister of Ed Negron. Growing up with him, we had fun, but he was more of a laid back type of person. He didn't really care what I did as long as I did it responsibly. I'm just so happy that they finally are able to give this man his roses on everything he did, because he took the time out of his personal life and did not get paid for any of this to volunteer to these different types of events that he's done. He's helped the Puerto Rican community as well as the LGBTQ community, and he was also a co-founder of BQAChicago. It's very, very amazing. Because just this one person is the reason why all of this is happening. So I am very humble. I am very happy to know that this is happening today.
Those that don't know me, I'm Eric Kugelman, and I am one of the owners of 6410. And we are so honored today to have everyone here for the street naming of Ed, especially his family, his mother, and his brothers and sister are all here. And they worked real hard, especially Monica, to make this happen. And I know the Alderman was very involved as well. So we really appreciate this in this moment.
Thank you all so much for making the time to come here. I'm Alderman Andre Vasquez of the 40th Ward. I was not fortunate enough to have too many conversations with Ed. I think we crossed each other a couple times since coming into office. But I remember a year ago when we all came together, along with so many others, to kind of walk around, and we had a whole march, and then went over to the Leather Archives Museum. And I got a chance to hear from so many neighbors, so many friends, so much family members of Ed's, and really thinking about it made me want to look more into everything he's done. And when I think about Ed, I think about where he came from. That as somebody who came Latino from Chicago, what it's like to grow up in the streets and the struggle of the city, to at times have been caught on the wrong path, being in a gang at a certain time, having substance issues. And I think about not only where he came from, which is where so many of us come from, but also what we do with where we come from and where we take it. I myself have gone through my own struggles growing up, as many of us have. And it's not always where you came from, but it's what you do with it. And thinking about how he's been such an advocate for the LGBTQ community, for the leather community, for bisexual community visibility as an LGBTQ member, as someone who can talk about substance abuse issues and was able to get people to look beyond it and really think about how we all have struggles we have to carry with, we have to fight through. And seeing Ed set an example for all of us is something I want all of us to remember. And so when I was reached out in order to name the street of Clark Avenue here after Ed, it was an absolute honor to do so, and we didn't hesitate. Because I want everyone to understand when we look at the street name up here, that Ed Negron way is more than just a street name. It's a way of life, and a way of carrying yourself, and a way of being a leader, and setting an example for so many others. Because it's not about like starting off at the top. It's about starting where you're from, and what you do with it, how you continue moving on. So it's an absolute honor to be here. So I want to make sure you all have thank you. I want to thank you all for everything done. And all of us, I want us to continue to carry on the Ed Negron way, and to make sure that in every instance that we can in our lives, that we help influence and make life easier for somebody else that's struggling. Because when we do that, we're continuing on that way. So,
I think I was about to end and do the handoff to Ed's brother, but before we do that, I mean, we all saw a small miracle here today.
Yes, yes.
I mean, we all saw a small miracle. If the folks hadn't been here by this sign, dedicating this sign, and nobody saw that man go down, and no one came to help him, he might not have gone off today, in an ambulance to recover. So, God bless, everyone who's here, and Ed, if he's looking down on us right now for making this happen for that man. And before I stop, whenever somebody really of note in the state dies, the General Assembly passes a resolution in their honor to commemorate their work, and on behalf of all the people and the governor of Illinois, recognize them and mourn their passing. And before we left Springfield, we did that for Ed. So this is a copy for you. Leo, there's another.
Wow, thank you so much.
And everyone in the state joins us today on Memorial Day mourning Ed's loss and celebrating his life. And now, to help with the unveiling is Ed's brother, who sounds just like Ed. It's very eerie. Just like Ed, Leo Negron.
Good morning or afternoon. How's everybody doing? First, I want to thank everybody for coming out. I know it's a holiday weekend and everybody has a lot of things that they could be doing. The fact that you guys are here, it's greatly appreciated. Even to my brother, to be the center of attention here. Greg, thank you. Thank you so much. To y'all, thank you. To my sister, thank you. If I haven't said hi to you, forgive me. My memory hasn't been the greatest lately. I thought I came to terms with this already. Driving up here, I was okay until I hit Clark Street. And the closer I got, my anxiety started to kick in. Never knew growing up, I never knew I had anxiety. My brother and I used to talk about certain health issues. And when he shared with me about some of his health issues, I was like, wow, I don't know what it feels like. I guess I never paid attention. But yeah, my anxiety really kicked in hard. When I got here, and I was just flooded with emotions. Again, I thought I came to terms with it. But seeing all of you being in front of the store, I know how much he loved the store and everybody in it. Used to always talk about you guys. So know that you guys were loved dearly by my brother. You know, to my family, I'm grateful that you guys are here. Trying to think of like a special memory that I could share with you guys, but there's so many. Some that I will keep to myself. I know everybody says I sound like him. If that's something that he wants to give to you, then so be it. You know, again, thank you guys. This is real special. It means a lot to us. My family and I, we were out of town. We left extra early to make sure that we were here on time because we weren't going to miss this. You know, if like me, I know a lot of you guys are missing him, and I've been trying to figure out the best way to connect with him. You know, because as most of you know, he chose to be cremated, something that I was adamantly against, but I was overridden not only by my family, but ultimately by his wishes. You know, and I have to accept that. I don't have a place where I can go and sit down and reminisce with him. I found myself, you know, asking him to visit. And he has a couple of times in my dreams. The bad part about it is I don't remember what they are. I know I wake up in the middle of the night thinking, man, I got to remember this. I got to write it down. Fall back asleep, wake up. I don't remember. You know, we believe in reincarnation. We believe that when somebody leaves this plane, while they're not here physically, spiritually, they are here, especially if they've made an impact. You know, and as you all already know, you know, he made an impact to many different communities and family members. So we cherish those memories. You know, nobody can ever take that away from us. I just would prefer that he be here so I could give him a hug. You know, he gave the best bear hugs. Again, thank you. I don't want to take up more of your time, but thank you so much. And for the fellow cigar smokers, in honor of my brother, I'm smoking one of his favorites, the Romeo and Juliet Curly Heads. So for those of you guys that enjoy cigars, here's to him. For this special moment,
You got to pull short ties. Pull.
What a sound!
So, just to give you some insight on this last conversation that I had with Ed, this was pretty much we're in the middle of shooting the documentary 10 years in the making, the BQAC story, and it was a very heartfelt moment for me. But looking at it retrospectively, I wouldn't not realize that he was still sick. And when he showed up during the Zoom meeting, he was chiming in from the hospital. I didn't get the chance to get to see him at the shop at all while he was still with us. And, you know, this was shot probably at the beginning of October 2020, right before our anniversary, so that I could add it into the documentary. But this was a very heartfelt moment. It made me feel much closer to Ed, even though we didn't get to meet each other face to face. And it was just a beautiful, beautiful moment that he shared with me just about everything, and I hope you enjoy it. I just want to give you a couple minutes just to think about what you want to say for your speech.
Well, I know part of what I was thinking. I do want to apologize to Mike for not being able to do this last bit with you. I so wanted to do it, but I'm sick, and I don't want to give whatever I have to anyone else. When all this is over and I'm more healthier, I do wanna get some coffee with you and reminisce. We need to. I think we need to so we can cry together. Michael's good to get you crying. But yeah, so we can laugh and cry. But yeah, I do owe him that, and I feel that we couldn't do this last 10 minutes. We would be like Statler Wardolph from the Muppets, like the two old men sitting there, just like because that's how we. Yeah. So yeah. So that's how I hope that it would end like that. Us two sitting in the balcony, just critiquing and laughing, and you know. But we'll be able to do that when I get better. Again, I don't want to give what I have because I don't even know what I have yet. But I just don't feel comfortable being around people right now. I want to thank everyone from generations after us. Thank you all for where you have taken the organization and the vision that you have for the future of the organization, and being able to know that in that vision you're also creating sort of a transition point into this is where I'm going to take it and let them hand it over to the next generation to take it on. But yeah, I'm just so grateful for the the visuality that we've done in Chicago. We've created some shit in Chicago where people know, where there's now studies just for bisexual people, not, MSM, men who have sex with men, and they include us in there. So, that's one thing that I want to tell folks is all those studies help those researchers, advertise it, help recruit people because they can't do it all themselves. They need us, and hijack a goddamn page. I don't care. They've been hijacking our name for years. Now it's time for us to hijack it a little bit and fuck them if they can't take a joke, but get the word out that these studies are out there, and we need as much research as possible, and the researchers that are out there, Wendy Beth, I love her to death. Her and Brian have been doing amazing stuff as well as Lauren Beach. They've been doing some amazing shit, so we need to support them. They need the community support to get recruits in there, because if they don't get recruits, then they're not going to get future studies. So if that's one ask that I have of the community is to please do that. Support our researchers because they need our help. Like there's again, they can't do it all themselves. We can't expect them to do it. It's not fair for us to tell them go do this study, but we also do everything. We want results and everything without giving them a hand. Just we can do that if and all all they want is for us to help recruit, and help advertise their study. So if you can do that, please, people, help them out with that.
Awesome. Anything else you wanted to share as you're just reflecting on the 10 years of being able to be part of BQAC?
Again, as I said earlier, I I couldn't imagine that the organization would still be here 10 years later. But organizations don't last that long. And when you got 4 or 5 people constantly doing all the work, it's constant burnout, and people like really stuck their head out. And again, it's because of everyone that in Chicago, they know we're here. Because uh, we know how to stick our nose where it doesn't belong. We know how to the right, jab the right size to make sure we get a little bit at the table. And pretty soon it's gonna be where no, we're inviting you to our table. We're not gonna be asking for scraps anymore. We're gonna be giving out scraps. That's what I would love to see. If we don't, we don't, fuck it. But that's one thing where you know I would love for us to be able to yeah, no, we want come y'all can come sit with us now. It's all right. Where before, we were fighting for a seat at the table, and now we got one. I mean, we're still fighting, but pretty soon we're gonna have our own table and be like, fuck it, we don't need your table. But if you want to come sit with us, it's all right. That's what I would love to see. We don't have to be dependent on the LGBT community because we've always been a stepchild to them, and you know I've seriously stopped asking for shit from them and just start create. That's how we became where we were. We got tired of asking for shit, and we're like, you know what? We're just gonna create some shit, and we're going to, you know, make what we need. We're gonna create what we need and what we want, and we're gonna find a way to get without having to beg for it, and look at man, y'all are still doing it 10 years later, and doing it a totally different way. You guys are, you got it. You got a documentary. Who would have thought of that? You know, this is you've created history. You've documented history. I can document it through photo, but you've done it through video, and that's huge. You know, this documentation then it's not going away. Because then I invite you to give a copy of it to Gerber Hart Library. So they can have it in their library. And if there's any other libraries out there that would have it, give them a copy. I would pay for a copy for them to have it, just so again, it's not just sitting on one person's shelf. If we can get that out there, I would love to, fucking take it, send it, get it out national, international. If there's an organization, the Bio Resource Center, give them a copy of it. Again, I would help you. I would help you finance it, just again, so they can have a copy of your history. Because this is our history through your eyes. And that's huge. That's huge. And I thank you for doing all the work. Because saying it and doing it are two different things. It's huge. It's huge, man. And next week when you're playing it, we're all gonna be crying and gonna be laughing and crying and crying and laughing. But those are gonna be fucking well earned tears. 10 fucking years of tears, of celebration, of now people know we're not just, you know, a side note. This is people can see it, so yeah. Thank you for creating it.
Man, it's just crazy to know Ed and seeing the lens of the people that he's touched in his life. He was a powerhouse, a force to be reckoned with, very classy gentleman, somebody who was stubborn, somebody who was humble, would give you bear hugs. He impacted a lot of folks, and you got to see that today. Ed, you're no longer with us physically, but your spirit still lives on through folks like myself, Greg Harris, your sister Monica, and so many countless others. Your actions have created ripples in people. You've affected so many people in the 50 years you were here on this huge rock. We miss you, man. We love you. And we know your spirit's still here with us today. Rest in power, my friend.
We had to come and support your event.
Bisexual Queer Alliance Chicago.